Tell me you're going to raise prices due to tariffs without telling me you're going to raise prices due to tariffs. Greetings, Lux lovers. Welcome back. Here we believe in intentional luxury and we're not afraid to invest in pieces that will work for us. So if that resonates with you, then please consider subscribing and stay a while. So coming off the heels of my video about doom spending, I got a lot of requests to do a follow-up on how the new global tariff situation might impact Hermès pricing. So I'm putting together my thoughts and some quick research that I did to find the answer, and I'll put my opinions at the end for 3 potential silver linings to this whole situation. So grab that fancy Hermès mug of tea and let's begin. So we're just gonna start with the question on everybody's mind, and basically it's, is Hermès going to increase their prices in the US due to tariffs? And I hate to tell you this, but I don't definitively know. However, there are kind of signs that do point to yes, and in some cases, it has been confirmed straight from the horse's mouth. So first, I'll lay out the facts that we know today, and basically that is on April 2nd, 2025, President Trump announced a blanket tariff on the EU of 20%, and these are supposed to go into effect on April 9th. However, these tariffs do seem to be negotiable, so things may change by the time this goes live. But furthermore, it was also reported that Axel Dumas, the CEO of Hermès, confirmed that he would raise prices based on tariffs in their most previous earnings call in February. However, at that point, we didn't know how bad it would be. So I just really needed to see for myself what he said and what my feeling was in terms of whether or not they would actually go through with it. So I went and listened to the full 2024 90-minute earnings call translated from Hermès. So please subscribe and give me a like just for going through that alone. But basically it was very enlightening and I learned some things. So I'll link the call below. Some interesting points that I actually learned was that Hermès has relatively low exposure to the US than what I originally thought. And that means we only account for 19% of all sales in 2024. So basically a fifth of all of their sales are from the US. But I also learned that Asia, including Japan, is a little over 50%. So that will definitely get their attention. So relations with the US is kind of not the biggest fish that Hermès on the whole is looking at. And it is a big chunk, but they might not be sweating it, to be honest. There's also a concept called price sensitivity. And basically that means the degree to which the price of a product will affect a customer's purchasing behavior. If they're very sensitive, that means a high increase will make them not purchase. But if they're not sensitive at all, it just means that they're going to purchase no matter what. And they feel that their luxury shoppers will just keep buying no matter if the price increases by 20%. However, for luxury companies in general, the issue is when your customer is an aspirational luxury buyer, that customer base might be very price sensitive and they might be pulling back their luxury shopping in harder times. So Hermès seems to be making the bet that their customers are not price sensitive and will just keep shopping. They did affirm that the US does remain a market they want to conquer because they do keep opening up stores here, but they also talked about their pricing strategy, which is basically they want to keep the same margins for all categories, for all products, no matter how popular they are. So that to me was very interesting, and it was very intentional on their part because to them, it mitigates risk. Changing tastes won't matter if everything they make just has that same profit margin. And so I'll show a clip, but basically the CEO and I believe the CFO at his side are talking with analysts in a Q&A session regarding their approach to global concerns.
We never make any decisions on the margin. The margin is a consequence of our strategic decisions. In our balanced theory for resilience, it actually only works if you got the same margin everywhere. In any case, we try to have the same margin across all the divisions so that you don't have more margins on the desirable product than on the one that is harder to sell. Because 10 years later, it might be the other way around. Well, I think you've said pretty much everything. Our margins are indeed very consistent because we also have our clients bear the extra costs when we export abroad. These are the kind of elements, fixed costs, that can impact profitability down the line. But structurally, if we have higher production costs, then we essentially pass this on to this market. But of course, that will vary from one market to another and from 1 year to the next.
So that to me just basically says that they expect the clients to bear the cost. So tell me you're going to raise prices due to tariffs without telling me you're going to raise prices due to tariffs. He also goes on to say, our policy up till now was to put custom duty in the production costs and have them vary according to the duties. So my understanding of this is that in order to maintain their consistent margins across the world, they're going to stuff the duty cost into the production cost bucket, and that might change from country to country. So yeah, I do kind of think they're going to raise prices accordingly. But before you collectively freak out, here are some things to consider. Number one, Hermès doesn't seem like the company that will do rash decisions. Like, they seem to do a lot of things really slow, old school, and intentionally. So I don't think you're going to see like major changes on the website pricing, but you know I'll be looking. Second, some inventory is already in the US. So they may decide to sell through that inventory at the non-tariff price and then kick in the post-tariff pricing once they start shipping in new bags. In fact, one question was about like, if they knew that these tariffs were coming, would they front load the inventory in the US to protect against tariffs? And I think the CEO gave it away and they were like, well, the US kind of like sold through all their bags more than my liking, so they have less inventory.
And excess overstocking in the US. Our American teams are very dynamic in Q4, as you were able to see in the figures. They could have kept a little more, to my taste. But then, we're in the multi-local, so each country manages themselves with their margin of liberty.
So that actually warmed my little heart because it means that our US essays are really trying for us. But anyway, the reason why I think this is interesting is because we can now see how long it takes from the April 9th date for us to start seeing those post-tariff pricing. Because to me, that's the indicator of how much inventory on hand Hermès actually has in the US. So let me repeat that. If we assume that Hermès only upcharges for bags that have legitimately been subject to tariff pricing, then that means we're going to see which, say like Birkins sell for $10,000 and which Birkins sell for $12,000. And if we see that that happens in like 2 to 3 months, then that means they had 2 to 3 months worth of stock already in the US before they had to get stuff from overseas. Or maybe we'll see prices go up within 1 month, and that means that they are legitimately going month by month for what's coming from Paris. So Hermès nerds out there can keep an eye on pricing with me, and we can see how honest our essays are with us. And all of this is totally just my opinion. Also, as you know, on my channel, I do like to find silver linings anywhere I can. So I will share some areas that I thought about which might be more of a silver lining for us luxury lovers. So first, if Hermès does increase their prices, it might actually mean less competition for bags. Like, yes, it's a total bummer to pay 20% more for an Hermès bag. However, that 20% is still better than what the resale market usually commands, and sometimes that's double the price. So I would predict that casual Hermès buyers will probably fall by the wayside, whereas the opportunity for regular shoppers to keep on buying will remain, and we might just get more access to bags because the playing field is kind of thinned out. And I will never forget once stores started opening back up back in 2021. I went into my Hermès, back then it was the Madison store, and like no one was there because literally like the economy and retail was just starting to open back up. And for the first time ever in my shopping trip with my old essay, we were coming to a close, and at that time I was saving for a down payment to move out of the city. So I wasn't necessarily looking for bags. But he said something to the effect of, so are you interested in anything from the back? And to me, that was definitely like, so do you want a bag? And I cried inside, but I was basically like, no, it's not that kind of a shopping trip. But I'll never know what he had in stock that day. But we might be going back to times like that where there's just less people and less demand for the bags. So regular shoppers might have more opportunity. So keep that in mind. Second, I do think this might actually heat up the resale market again. So as you know, the prices of pre-loved bags have been going way down, and it was harder to sell because there were so many new bags coming out, new collections, new designs. For better or for worse, it was good for buyers on the pre-loved market where they were getting deals, but for people who had closets full of bags that they wanted to sell, they were getting nowhere near the retail price. but I think all of this may change with the coming of the tariffs. And in fact, that's like the theory of the case for what the tariffs are. The point of them is to encourage people to like not ship in things from outside the country and to buy what's already inside the country. So what I predict, if the prices of new bags, which already have high prices, go up 20% even more, then people will look to the pre-love market to see like what's already in circulation at the older prices. So I would say if you had bags that you thought you were going to want to sell, maybe wait a little bit to see what happens with the tariffs, and you might be able to eke out a bit of a higher price once people stop shopping for brand new bags with that 20% markup. And third, this means you're definitely gonna get more bang for your buck if you're going to Europe for luxury shopping. Whereas the benefit from booking a ticket to Paris would have saved you the taxes and even sometimes higher prices in the US. Now you would be saving even more by shopping in Europe by avoiding taxes and the tariff markups. So the savings could be high as 30% or even higher. And this doesn't include what you would pay at customs. So who doesn't love more of an excuse to go to Paris and shop? Whew, so that's it. This is probably one of my nerdiest Hermes videos of all, but I hope you found it helpful and can use this information to help empower your future purchasing decisions. There's no shame in waiting out these tariffs. And I also don't get the impression that Hermes would keep the prices high if the tariffs did go away one day. And they would probably bring the prices down if the tariffs were relieved. So thank you to those who stayed with me to the end. So let us know in the comments if you're going to continue your Hermes journey if prices increase, or if you think you'll take a break. I welcome you to follow me on Instagram if you'd like to see more of how I style my luxury items in my day-to-day and other luxury moments. If you've enjoyed this video, I invite you to go down the rabbit hole that is my luxury chit chat playlist, and I'll put that link here. Please like it if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!